In this episode of the show with no name, I'm your host, and it's just I want to start with confessions. I want to start with just a little confession of myself. I have not been true to my character in that when I'm watching TV and I see someone that's not the same race as mine, I'm white. When I see them, my first thought is love for all humanity. And if you thought I was going to say anything else, I think you need to examine your heart. I think you need to find God. And I think we need to jump into this episode of the WordPool podcast. Let's give it up, everybody. WordPool. Welcome back.
Look at those peaks.
Welcome back.
Look at those peaks.
Okay. We were talking about something. Oh, anime.
Yeah, you're roasting me.
I wasn't roasting you. I want to find out more.
Okay.
I bet there's a book. I'm gonna look it up. You can keep talking to me about it.
There's a few books. Yeah, I've looked into them.
About the subject of anime.
Yes, sir.
Because I want to know. I remember, not the history. I'm gonna look up the history.
There is a history book, I believe.
I'm very fascinated.
Yeah.
by the genre that is anime. Like, first of all, can we define anime? You know.
Japanese animation.
And now, why is it? Let's define anime. Anime is a style of Japanese film and television animation, typically aimed at adults as well as children. I like how they said adults first. That's very prominent. But here's the deal, right? It's Japanese film and television, but other Japanese film and television has been like The Shogun Warrior, which we took very gladly, and we turned it into stuff like Star Wars was based on The Shogun Warrior, like lightsaber duels and stuff.
Wasn't there another, like, The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise?
I mean, I guess.
I've never seen it, so I don't know anything about it. But
neither have I. But, I mean, that's my point, is that Western has taken that concept, but not this concept of anime. Anime is very unique unto itself. The floor is yours.
Wait, what do you mean? How am I supposed to take that?
Take it however you will. You're the anime component of the show.
But you're the one asking the questions.
I'm the questions. I'm the interviewer. And my first question is it's a very good question.
Okay.
It's going to be one that makes you really stumble, right?
Okay.
When you're watching anime,
yeah,
what makes you go, this isn't something I could find if I change the channel to KTUL News at 8 and or the CW? Go.
What makes me think that, for the most part, is obviously art style, because part of the reason that anime has a charm to me personally is that when you look at any kind of different show or animation, they'll usually be pretty distinct in one way or another, and part of that distinction is what makes me like them so much. Being able to look at different art styles and, knowing that you're in for basically a completely different experience. Because although anime is usually under the same umbrella, unlike with sitcom, like when you watch a sitcom, that has a formula, right? Mm-hmm. You can agree?
Yeah. But
like with anime, I don't think there's there's tropes, but I would argue that there's really no set formula to it. So when you watch an anime, it can be a lot of different things, and I think that's part of the charm to it.
So you think that anime... Let me see if I understand you. You don't think anime...
I know, it's hard. It's hard to understand.
Has story beats akin to Western beats of how a story is structured. Is that correct?
I would say they're similar, but, like, I don't know. Like, the beats are obviously different because of cultural reasons, but...
Can I please present to you Yu-Gi-Oh?
What about it?
Yu-Gi-Oh very much has a very similar structure in every episode.
Okay.
Yu-Gi-Oh begins with a character monologue. It goes into whatever the antagonist of the episode is going to be, whether it be time or a duelist or something.
Okay.
There's a battle.
I see.
And if this is a one-time episode, then there's a battle and then an ending monologue and then it's out. And you could describe that about almost every episode of the show.
Yes.
Almost all of them. And the same thing about Dragon Ball Z. You know?
Yes.
You open, there's some dialogue. There's usually the talk of a fight.
Uh-huh.
and then there's usually another monologue of sorts, another like brace yourselves for the fight, and then there's the fight.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's a monologue and it's wrapped.
Okay. So,
by the way, is that true for Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah.
Never seen the show.
I mean, Dragon Ball Z is a very simple show, but I like it all the same. I mean, Dragon Ball Z is not bad, but the thing is that I would find like what you described is like the shonen genre of anime, but like it's a very small part of the whole. So like Yu-Gi-Oh has kind of an excuse because Yu-Gi-Oh, I think it was made for children, wasn't it?
Well,
I mean, here in the West, it definitely was.
Well, that's debatable as well, and I think we could talk about the medium that is anime and how there are channels in Japan that are just anime channels that play it nonstop. And
we're looking at this picture, and I think I could actually name almost all of those.
I mean, that's very cool. I could not.
That's cool.
But you do you, and that's also another point to this whole anime thing, is the whole aspect of you do you, right? We'll get there. We're gonna travel along this path, but we gotta keep right where we are. We're gonna reach our Dark Tower. We'll get there.
I guess we'll have to talk about that at some point too.
Well, we only have 54 more minutes. But I think it's important to realize that there are channels that play anime exclusively, and when such a thing exists and such a medium exists,
channels like TV
like
channels?
Japanese TV channels.
Okay.
And I think when we talk about that sort of thing, you have to realize that a lot of that TV show stuff is meant for adults, like that buy a TV and buy the channels and get that channel. So it's this weird idea that everything is animated in such a kid style, you know, just the way it's portrayed, but it's meant for adults, you know?
Okay, see, that's where I disagree, because I don't think that just because it's drawn means it's like in a kid's style. Like, what defines a kid's style exactly? Is it the big eyes, or is it like cartoonishly large whatever? Like, is it misproportioned everything? Like, I don't know. Like, because some are like, yeah, they're a little childish in their, you know, styles, but other ones I would say are not really childish at all.
Well, I think it also has to, well, I mean, you can tell like a kid's show. Well, that's the contrast. Is I don't understand why they can tell a story like this. You know who this is? I don't know who this is, but she is a cat girl. First, that's a whole other thing. She's a cat girl, but girl is the emphasis. Now, there are stuff like this that are made to be like adults, but they're drawn as children, but they aren't explicitly children, and like that sort of thing. And I think a lot of other types of TV shows are very direct about what it is that they're showing, but anime is not so direct. I think it leaves it up to a lot of interpretation.
Okay.
And as terms of what you're looking at.
Yeah, an example would be nice.
Like, what am I looking at right now?
That is K-On!
Well, I didn't want the show name, but explain to me what I'm looking at.
I believe that's a rock band.
Now, what age would you say these girls are?
Sophomore.
See, to me, they look anywhere from 11 to 18. Like, based off anime rules. Like, they could very well be 20.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but, I don't know, like, I feel like it gets a bad rap for always being set in high school, but, I mean, there's plenty of American shows that are set in high school, too.
That's also the interesting thing about the sexualized point I was talking about earlier, is the idea that these girls can look like this and be hypersexualized. Like, that's weird. Especially for the medium. Because, like, you can't do that in any other format. You can't explicitly show something that would come off as sexual and have any inclination, even if it's a misinclination, that they would be perceived as young. You couldn't have that. It would get ripped. But stuff like this can survive.
Well, I mean, I'm not defending that at all, because I'm not into that, but
that's the whole idea, is that like, you're not into it, but the line is so thin.
Well, I mean, the main reason that it's different is because it's drawn instead of acted. But, I mean, yeah, it's still a thin line.
I just think the thin line between... Oh, look at this. Have more haiku. I just think that the thin line... Like, that's one of the things I have problems with anime. some of it just being narrative device, like how the stories are told. I'm not a big fan of.
Well, I mean, you say that, but not all anime are told the same. Like they're just as varied as regular TV. I mean, that's the equivalent of being like, "Oh, I don't like Western TV because of narrative devices." Like they're all told differently. I mean, how Star Trek is told and written is completely different from like, I don't know, Euphoria. Like it's that level of contrast.
Well, hold on. First of all, I think it's kind of a touche moment, because if you're allowed to say that this can be above Western shows for that same reason, then I can say that this has that same trope attribute. They both have the same kind of thing. Because you said earlier that this over Western TV, when you're watching this, is because this doesn't fall into a lot of the same tropes and a lot of the same patterns as Western shows.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
And this also has their own set of that.
What I mean by that is like this show, for example, the one we're looking at, Haikyuu. I don't think that would work as a live action show, because the action would not be there. There would not be the same level of tension.
Well, one of the problems I have with a show like Haikyuu is I guess it's because it's like the whole medium is artsy or whatever, quote unquote artsy, but it's this idea that it's a game of volleyball. We're talking about a game of volleyball. Like, okay. I don't understand how you're in a writers meeting as someone who makes anime. Like, if you're a writer, because obviously this medium is for voice actors and for animation people, animaniacs. But if you're a writer sitting in a studio writing this stuff, like, like how do you write it seriously? Because like you take a show like Haikyuu, which is a show about volleyball, right? Yeah. And you turn a game of volleyball, which in real life takes an hour and 40 minutes. You take that and you make it 12 episodes. I mean, every
okay, hold up. The show, like, they don't take 12 episodes to do one volleyball game.
They take 6. I know that. I know one game has taken 6 episodes. I know
yes, that's true. But like, there's.
But it's this idea.
It's this
idea that something happens. Something happens in the game, and then like it's so like the push for drama is so there that like something that you could write in a sentence takes like 4 minutes to digest. When after minute 1, you're just like, okay, I get it. But then like it just keeps going. That's like one of the main things I have. It's just like, why are we still dwelling on this?
I mean, that's specifically the shonen genre. Like, that's something that they do commonly, is stretch stuff out and make it dramatic and make it big and crazy and off the wall crazy. But like in a show like, click on that one.
This?
Yeah, that one, that's The Great Pretender. That doesn't have any kind of like, that's it's a lot like Ocean's 8, Ocean's series, I don't know. It's like that, where it's basically it's these group of con artists that try to do different jobs. So the stories are self-contained to an extent, so it's kind of episodic, except it takes a few episodes. But I mean, there's very little downtime, and there's very little of that like, oh, I hate this like they're stretching it out aspect, because it's not stretched out in that sort of fashion.
But you said it takes a few episodes.
Yeah, but like that's the same way that it takes Ocean's 8 at like 2 hours to do a heist. Like it's that.
Yes, but a heist would reasonably be 2 hours.
Yeah, so it is 2 hours. They're like 4 episodes apiece.
Oh, 20-minute increments?
Yeah.
I mean,
like it like I said, it's too general to be like, oh, all anime stretch it out, because not all of them do. A lot of them are very self-contained.
But you have to admit that the dramatization is
absolutely, it's ridiculous.
But the dramatization is a big push for all anime, which I think is a problem. Well, it's not a problem per se, but it's definitely of note that, and we've talked about this before on this show, but it's this idea that because it's drawn, they have to push more drama, because they have to explicitly tell you in a scene how things are being portrayed, or at least that they have to show you to an extent. But somehow the medium has pushed it to like a heightened level. So like every scene like gets cranked with this drama, and it just feels like it comes off as inauthentic unless that's what you're looking for.
I mean, once again, that's still a generalization. I mean, not all anime is made the same, and not all of them are dramatic like that. Like what you're saying is, if in the example of Haikyuu, where they take 6 episodes to do one volleyball game. Like, yeah, parts of it are dramatized and parts of it are, like, slowed down to get their thoughts onto the table. But, like, there are a lot of cases where things are even sped up, or maybe there's, like, different kinds of narration. So like they might do the same episode twice from two different perspectives, or like I don't know, there's just it's too general to say that all anime stretches their runtime.
Well, not even the stretches of the runtime. I had moved on from that. I was saying the idea of the drama, like the idea that it's so showcased, because that is, I think, anime, one of its big defining factors is drama. Like every emotion is shown to such an extent. Like if there's sadness, like you're told there's sadness, and then you gotta dive deeper into sadness. Or if like it's a shock, like that's why there's all those like infamous memes and stuff of anime people like freaking out or being excited, because that stuff exists. Like it's a prime mover in anime, you know?
I guess, but I don't necessarily see a problem with that.
And I wasn't saying it exactly was a problem, but I'm saying to point it out. Because we started this dissecting anime. That's what we're doing. But I'm saying just that, like, versus a show, I guess, localized here, that isn't exactly as prevalent. And if it is, it gets more clowned on, like Riverdale. I mean, Riverdale has that, not to like the same level, but it has it, and that's why people kind of don't like Riverdale as much. But still
people still love it.
They're still, yeah. Well, Riverdale is a very special case. You could only really make the argument of the show for like season 1, which season 1 is better than all of them, as narratively speaking. But because that actually has a complete beginning, middle, end. But after that, they just went off the rails. But the reason why people love Riverdale is because it's created like an occult fandom of nobody knows what's happening, even the actors or the writers, and we just are all on this roller coaster together. And it's so funny, all these fans that watch Riverdale, because everyone's in on the joke that anything can happen. So everybody just like looks at the studio at the end of the season to see if they'll give them more money, and then we just all go on this roller coaster ride again. And like, but that's the special thing about Riverdale, is that we're all in on the thing. Like everybody knows Riverdale is that kind of show at this point, and it plays on that. Like they can just do whatever they want.
Okay.
It's like like an old soap opera that is not only modernized, but a fan base that is well aware that it's a soap opera and it can do that sort of thing, you know? And by the way, soap opera is very much the same analogy, I guess, for the West, of that very dramatic sense of self and sense of character that all of them have. Like I get that's kind of same thing in anime when I watch anime as well. The same like they really try to hook you in with the drama, you know?
I mean, I don't know. I don't really get that vibe most of the time.
Well, what vibes are you getting from anime when you watch anime? Because this again points this idea of what are you getting from anime that is so different from other TV that you would always choose to go back to anime and you would pick from an anime show. And more so than that, and you can answer this, you can answer that question I just said first, but then the answer behind that is why is the division? Because there has to be a difference if there's a division. But go ahead.
I mean, for me, it's just like, it's the level of creativity that they have. I mean, a lot of anime would not work as regular TV. That's just a fact. I mean, there's a lot of proof that in most anime don't work as regular TV.
But why? That's the whole...
Well, I mean, have you seen live action adaptations?
But that's the point. But that's the point. What is it that we're talking about? What is it that makes it that way?
I mean, I don't know.
What are the factors that make anime anime? That's the question.
Probably
besides the art style. Besides the art style, because the art style very much, you could do that. You could make an artsy show in America and or anywhere else, and we've seen that be done. Yeah. Very much with earlier this summer when we talked about that show that the show that was taken from that guy's podcast where he made his own show out of them.
The Midnight Gospel, right?
Yeah, that show. Yeah. Which was all about the animation.
I mean, I did like that. So, like, I guess it's kind of the same vibe as that. Like, it's kind of just, like, that creative world aspect that I like.
But to me, I could watch that because, like, of the like, I very much listened to what they were saying as well as looking at things.
Yeah.
Like, it was good world building, but... you know, at the same time, you really wanted it for the meat of what they were saying. But, you know.
I mean, I kind of wanted it for both. I kind of wanted to look at and listen. Like, I don't really think I preferred one or the other.
Okay, so in that case, then you're just talking about, like, anime as a show versus just a bunch of really cool pictures set to music and a slideshow. Like that's, I mean, like what is it? So that's what we have so far is just a kaleidoscope of pictures that we can look at. But what else do we need to add to this pot to make an anime show?
Well,
because that's all I got
so far. We only have moving pictures.
Well, we have this idea that the art makes it important, that the art style can draw people in based on what they enjoy out of that art style, which I can understand to an extent, because if a world looks cool, then you can be like, well, I want to look at more pictures of this, I guess. But then there's also other story elements, other narrative, anything else that adds to become an anime. Because at some level, there's something that gets added to the pot that deters everybody away from it and leaves a select group of people.
I mean, I don't really know if I'm qualified to say, because, like, I like it, so I don't know what that deterrent would be, you know?
Well, we can talk our way through it, but I need to know what it is that you like about it.
I mean, like, I don't know, it's a hard question to answer, because, like, I just like it. Like, I enjoy, I don't know, I guess some of the tropes are funny, but, like, I don't really think that's a selling point. Maybe it's just because, like, the stories are different to an extent because it's from a different culture. I really don't know.
I mean, could it be this idea that, like, it is the cultural difference that you like about it, like that's told through a different lens, that, like, culturally speaking, they go for different kinds of jokes or different kinds of storytelling?
I mean, I would say that might be a factor, but, like, I don't know. I do enjoy, like, other forms of media, I guess.
Because here's another point that I'll say, is that anime as a style and as a thing to look at, I really enjoy in terms of video games. So, like, the Yu-Gi-Oh game with art style makes sense. The Kingdom Hearts world with an art style makes sense. But when you start to make it how anime is made, you know, whatever it is that they add into it, story-wise, story beats, there's something that changes it from the world of a video game that then makes it too sour for me. That sours the taste. The world itself can still be interesting, but I'd much rather play the game. You know, and much to the point of what we were talking about with drama, you look at a game like the Digimon Cyber Sleuth games,
yeah,
and Cyber Sleuth had a good world, all things considered.
Yeah, it's Digimon, so
all things considered, it was a good world, good mechanics, good game, although it could be repetitive, but that's different. That's a gameplay thing.
Yeah, it was like a 5 out of 10 for me, but
what really brought it down was all of the dialogue and what made it so dramatized and went on and on and on and on, and eventually after 3/4 of the game I just started skipping it all because I was like, I don't like, it's cool, like, I guess that you can build upon, but also if this was a game not made where it was made, the dialogue would be shortened a lot and it would be much more condensed.
I mean, what game would you compare it to? Like, does it have a Western counterpart that you would, like, you'd be like, oh, this is an example of the same type of game with less dialogue?
Well, one that was made in the West, no, but you could compare it to another of its kind, which was like Pokemon, which is very simple.
I mean, but also the thing about Pokemon is that it's made for children. So of course it's not going to have a lot of text because children don't like wading through text.
So the point is, like you could have a lot more simple text in a game like Pokemon that they would read, but Pokemon at least learned, and by the way, Pokemon exploded in the West. They also had to write more Western style. They learned to write tight. They learned to put their emphasis on what mattered. Versus I think of a lot what happens in anime, which is that there's so much and they ask you to care for all of it. Like, they ask you to care for so much and you're like, okay, but what is this main train of thought that we're going on so we can get there, you know? Because I think that's a pitfall for a lot of it. It's just that we get introduced and then there's this element and this element, and pretty soon you're filled with stuff and you're holding it all, you know?
I don't know. I don't really understand that.
Well, I think it's similar to the argument that some people would have about Game of Thrones, where there's all these characters and there's all this stuff going on, and at any point they could reference any of it, and by a certain point you're like juggling 30 names, which is the same kind of problem with anime that I have, where it's just like there's so many elements that they want you to care about, but at the end of the day, like, I guess as a storytelling person, I just want to know A to B, and I want to know how we get there. And I think the way that they like pepper it all up in an anime is not exactly how I like to watch my stories.
I mean, I guess I see where you're coming from, kind of like more straightforward in a way.
And I think a lot of Western shows do that to an extent. Like they may have an A plot and a B plot that meet at C,
but they don't have like 12 different things going on.
They don't have 12 different things, and the A plot itself doesn't feel so fat that you're like, that you almost get confused and think it is a B plot, you know? Like it maintains its structure throughout.
I don't know. Like I get what you're saying, but like I can't think of a time where I was watching something and I was like, this is too much. Like, I don't know. I usually, like, when it comes to names, I usually just remember the face and like 2 characteristics that they have, and then I just go from there. Like, I don't usually like, I don't know, like.
That's another question. Do you think anime is distinctive enough to always tell them all apart?
100%.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I think I don't know. Like I'm looking at this page and like it all just blends after a while.
I mean, to you, yeah, but I don't know. Like I've seen a lot, so to me, like I can tell these are all distinct. Like I don't know. It's just like a how much you've been exposed to thing, I think.
Yeah.
Like I mean like it's kind of like showing like the Avengers movies, I guess, like Marvel movies. Like just different screenshots from each movie, like they all should look pretty similar with similar characters, but if you've seen the Marvel movies enough, you should be able to tell which one's which, I guess, in a way.
But I mean, that's movies as a whole. I'm talking about like I can tell the Hulk from Iron Man, but
well, like what I'm saying is like maybe like a scene from Avengers. Well, no, that's a terrible.
But yeah, but my analogy that doesn't fit the analogy that I'm saying because I'm literally just looking at a picture of all of them, like all the characters.
Yeah.
Like the thing about the movie thing I can understand as well, where like if someone had never seen any of those movies and you showed them a clip from one and a clip from the other, they could think it was the same thing because it has the same kind of energy and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, in terms of this, I guess if you just get attuned to the art or whatever,
I mean,
or if you just know about the characters, but I think that's also a problem for someone who even looks at anime for a second. Is just like there's so much of it, and then like people are so devoted to all of it that it's just like, well, what am I doing? Like it's a lot. It's a lot for someone to try and take in.
I mean, that's why a lot of people have like there's like a list of like beginner anime that's very like it's much more like the plots that you like. It's much more straightforward, and like it's just a very condensed version of what anime is. So I guess in that sense, like anime is not necessarily like. So, like, yeah, if you look at this big picture with all these characters, it's overwhelming. But, like, the point of anime is to watch it one at a time. Like, you don't usually take it as a whole like this.
Okay, but we got on something interesting. And you also said something interesting, which is the idea of beginner anime. And you said that beginner anime ties into a lot of the same stuff that Western stuff might tie into. And may entice people who are used to a certain type of storytelling, which means we're almost to the point that I've been trying to ask this whole time, which is the aspects of the anime that makes it so different. Because obviously, if there's a beginner, then there's a deeper level that is the truer level to this, or more true. Which then I ask, what is that? What are the elements of that make it truer versus this beginning element?
I mean, I guess there's definitely a lot less like Japanese-ness in the beginner ones. Like Death Note is a really popular beginner one because like it is just like a thriller all the way through, and there's not. I found there was a really dumb part, but like I was in the minority on that one. So like I guess it's just like the complexity of the storytelling, but not in a good way, I guess. Like Death Note is a really solid story, and it makes a lot of sense, and you don't have to think about what kind of world it is because it's just a very like it is our world kind of thing. But when you get deeper into anime, sometimes it'll like something will happen, and the reason it's happening is because of something in Japanese culture, or it could be like just a world building thing that you need to pay attention to beforehand. So I guess it might just be like small stuff like that kind of like sets up some anime as like more difficult to get into than others.
I'm trying to think how I can I'm trying to pull up like a population like U.S. interest in TV genre by population. Because I want to see where stuff lies, you know?
Okay.
I want to see where we're at with our likes and our interests. Okay, hold on. This isn't a big enough list. I need more. Let's see. This is Poland. We're just looking at different. Okay, these are TV channels. Okay, well, these stats were kind of it. You know, drama being number one, comedy, participatory reality,
Ew.
news, sports, and documentary. Documentary should be higher. I think it is higher in 2020 than it is in 2017.
I'm kind of surprised sports is so low.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, drama is huge.
Well, yeah, drama's always huge, but like I would have sworn
I'm
sports.
more-
I would have thought that sports was at least above the news.
I would have thought that the reality would have been higher than the comedy, but I don't know. I think Americans now, not everybody else besides anime, but I think Americans like to see Americans, and they like the interaction between Americans. That's why they put on stuff like reality TV, and they like to win. They like competition, which is a big thing too. Okay, here's more of an expensive in general. Which type of films or TV do you watch on table? I mean, there's 3,200 responses, but we don't know where these responses came. Oh, United States. Okay, let's see more stuff, huh? I see anime got thrown in with cartoons though. That's interesting. I don't know if I can trust this then, because obviously the animation genre is very different when we talk about cartoons versus anime. But it did make up 35%, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is 6th place, 7th place?
I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. In my opinion, like all of animation should animation itself. I think should be a tag, because I think animation, even just like all kinds of animation, can fall into a lot of categories, but. Like, the problem with that list is that they just threw it into one category, even though they're all vastly different from each other. Like, I mean, that's true between, like you can watch a cartoon like The Amazing World of Gumball and then watch a cartoon like Adventure Time. They're pretty different, but, like, they're thrown into the same category with no real reason as to why, other than the fact that they're both just animated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Something, like, about that is not exactly good. It kind of oversimplifies it.
Well, I think cartoons are closer than anime in terms of their differences. Like, they're closer as a genre group than anime is as a genre group.
That's true, but I mean, there are like outlier cartoons like Samurai Jack. I feel like no one would put that together with like The Amazing World of Gumball.
Well, because people would slide Samurai Jack over to the anime column, you know?
Yeah, but then, you know, there's anime that are more like The Amazing World of Gumball. That's why I just think putting animation as its own section is kind of just an oversimplification.
So back to what I was saying earlier about back to what I was saying earlier about this idea of anime as a collection piece. So you wouldn't say that why is Paris? I don't even know why this is in here. But I don't know why either of these are in there. I don't know if I added these or not. But anyway. So you would say that anime as a genre is just as inviting as all the other genres? Because I would say that,
I mean, I guess it's not.
I would say it's not. I would say
I mean, like, I would say it's not, like, confidently, but, like, if you were to ask me why, I guess I really don't have an answer.
I mean, I guess it's just because, like, it's weird, but, like, that's a very generic term, so... I think people would say it has something, and I might agree, is that some people would say it has to do with the fan base, a part of it, not the whole thing. Part of it being the fan base, which I also want to get into because it's very interesting. But another part of it is the sheer scope, like we were talking about, and the other aspect is this idea that you just said, well, there are lists that show you where you go. But I feel like with a lot of different genres, you don't need that sort of thing. Like, with a lot of different genres... Like, you just go, you just jump in. But with anime, it feels so crushing of a thing to try and grasp and try and jump into. Especially for, like, what I was saying, which I think I speak for a lot of general fans when I say, like, it does look all similar. So how do you even jump into any of it, you know?
I mean, I don't know. Like, for me personally, I started watching, like, Pokemon as a kid, and then I saw, like, a few years later, I saw Naruto on Netflix, and I was like, oh, like, this looks like Pokemon. I'll watch this, and then I watched Naruto, and then I think after that I watched, like, Sword Art Online, and it just goes from there. Like, you just one at a time, you know? Like, you don't think like, oh, these all look the same, which one do I watch? I feel like you just jump into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fan base thing too, because like, I think a lot of people do want to have some level of knowledge and acceptance into what they're gonna watch when they go into it. I think the idea of just clicking something and going is not that's a very anime genre thing.
But here's my question: like, what do you need to know before you watch it? Like before you watch a show, like what do you look up? What's your ritual, I guess?
Well, I mean, for Gilmore Girls, which I saw, I don't know, like 4 years ago. I remember seeing it on TV in Hawaii, and I remember looking at it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, whatever it was, like it was just like a scene from a season of the show. I was like, okay, it's whatever. It looks pretty cool.
That's the mark of a good show, if it can like reel you in with like a random scene. I just want to throw that out there.
It was just in the background. I was like, oh, okay.
Like that's the mark of a good show. But anyway, continue.
Well, I think it had good. Well, I mean, it just fit into what I like, which is always character building. Which, by the way, I think is another reason why I don't like anime, is because I think with shows, especially like not real shows, but like shows based in physical reality, I think with stuff like that, the character building is much more one-to-one with like real people, because even as like actors, they're playing characters that are physically there in the scene. You can see that connection versus anime. But I digress.
Oh, okay.
With Gilmore Girls, I think I saw a scene, and then coincidentally I had heard about its popularity, and then looked in the description, seeing what it was, and then maybe clicked on the first episode, and from there I went on. But even still, with the first episode, watching like minutes of it at a time, and like leaving and coming back or whatever, and eventually it just grew. But what I can say is, after finishing Gilmore Girls, there's so much diversity among, and so much noticeable diversity among these shows, that it wasn't like I could go from Gilmore Girls and be like, what can I match with this? Like, that wasn't possible. Like, you can match the ideas or maybe the concepts of how like these people are getting together or like getting closer as people, but you can't match a one-to-one, I think, like you can with
anime. Well, I mean, I don't want to say anime is one-to-one. Like, the only reason I went from like Pokemon to Naruto is because like I was like, oh, like this looks interesting, and I had seen like scraps of Naruto in my youth, and I didn't really like piece it together until I watched the series on Netflix.
But they are both, but looking from the outside, you could very well tell that they're both skewed toward younger audiences, and they're both action set pieces.
Okay.
But I mean, that just speaks to like how you would connect the two. I mean, I think just choosing one because it's similar to the other is just my point of saying, like, I think that's harder to do with this kind of television, like, because you could watch a show like Agents. Well, I mean, again, it's based on genre, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like a reverse example, because you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's very much just a show with like agents who shoot guns and stuff, and you can go to NCIS, and then that stuff's endless. But there's a lot of other types of shows, especially drama, which is the prevalent one, where like it doesn't exactly match up every time.
I mean, I guess, but like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to articulate this right, but I mean,
hold please. Awkward silence. But yeah, I don't know. I think I
mean, I guess in a way you've seen a lot more TV than I have. So like, to you, all of the shows are like super unique and you can tell. But to me, I can tell they're distinct, but like to a certain level I can't like if you showed me like two dramas and we're like not that these are the same show, but like what's a major difference, I might not be able to tell you. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
I mean, but what about, I don't know, because I think it's very much what's in those shows, which goes back to my original argument, but what's in those shows is what you would be able to tell the difference of. But then my question is, when you remove the physical elements of being able to see the distinct difference, and you go over to anime, what is it that makes it distinct between the two?
Like what
between two
distinguishes
shows,
one anime to another?
Yeah.
Well, like, obviously, the character designs are going to be completely different. The story and the setting are going to be different. Like, pretty much everything from one anime to another is going to be different.
Well, that you can say the same thing about two different shows in a different genre that are
Yeah.
similar. Like
Yeah,
like
you could say that.
like these like Jane the Virgin and iZombie, which we're looking at right now, are technically in the same genre, but there is a very distinct
That's a
difference.
weird Netflix stretch to me.
But it is, not that it's in this genre, but as the broad drama genre at all, they are in the same thing, you know. Even if
like,
iZombie is like an... Oh, by the way, that's another point. iZombie could be classified as like action thriller drama versus anime, which doesn't have its cuts, you know.
It does have its cuts.
But it's very like you don't hear about those cuts. I mean, that's not something that is expressively told. I think that's another thing with anime is that, and maybe this is the reason why people don't even bother, is because I think with other forms of media, it's very much pushed towards you, like they want you to see it. I think with anime, there isn't that level unless like
I mean, people
know someone who knows.
Well,
someone.
exactly, but that's because it's like an underground thing still. Like people don't.
Well,
anime's
here
not,
in this country,
yeah,
but you know,
in other places it's fine. That's not a problem. There's like probably ads, commercials for it. There's like, oh, watch this when this comes on. Like, it's only like that here, where it's like, oh, there's like no mention of it because people don't like seeing it.
Oh, I really wish I could find that interest. Let's try world interest. Wait, world TV genre. This is how you market, kids. World TV genre interest. Yeah, interest by population. Wow, we're doing it. Genre terms in global film. I don't need that. I need TV. I literally put that in the title. Can we find it in Google Images? Well, you can find whatever you want in Google Images.
I think that's a graph we've literally already looked at.
I just wish... Yeah, here we go. I just wish we could find... Oh, don't tell me I have to pay for this. Or that it's just all reading.
It's research.
But this is the kind of stuff I would love to see, but... this is by religion and stuff. It's
why'd you look this up?
Because I want to see the variations. Like I want to see TV as it's looked at here versus where it's looked at somewhere else when we're talking about anime. Because this is the thing, and I think it ties back to the fan base argument where like on the outside looking in, anime is very much a quiet genre until you get closer and closer and closer to a fan, and then it just gets louder and louder and louder. And I think once you get to an individual fan, it's like that is like the thing. Like it's an explosive loudness of fandom for that sort of thing.
I mean, I don't know. Like I don't see myself like that. Like I don't think I go too far, do I?
I mean, I don't think you're as I don't want to say vocal, but it's definitely like the prime thing. It's definitely like the prime interest, prime motive for a lot of things, a lot of sub points in your life, you know. But that's the thing I think that makes the whole genre, which is another thing I don't really understand, is this fan base. And I was waiting to talk about it because it is different than the shows themselves. I still don't have a good grasp on the shows themselves. Further research is needed. But the fan base is the other point of this, which do I have anime definition still here? Yeah. Well, because there was a picture. Because there's two things. First of all, there's the anime fans as they act and how they are either stereotypically or directly portrayed. And then there are like these people. and we're looking at a picture of I don't know how to describe it nicely, but it's very much what you would consider an anime fan. From the outside looking at it, it's one way of looking at it.
I mean that's also kind of stereotypical, you know? It's stereotyping.
But
like,
I
mean, like saying like, oh, the fandom is like a bunch of people like this most of the time is kind of a generalization.
Well, stereotypes exist because there is a level of it.
I mean,
there is a level.
Sure, that's true.
But that's like, what I want to examine. Why does that level of thing exist, and why does that level of thing exist that draws people together? Because it is a common trait associated with a lot of fans like that. Not that it's everyone, but there are a lot of points of it together.
I mean, if I were to wager a guess as to why that's the case, I would say it's because anime is over the top, so therefore the fan base would logically also be over the top.
But is it life imitates art or art imitates life?
That is a question that has plagued the world for generations.
But in terms of this, I mean, do you think that these people get drawn to it because they are that way, or that when they look upon it for, they become fans of it, they take away that, you know?
Honestly, I think it's a mix of both. I think like you have to have an interest to begin with, and then once you have an interest, you start to like. I mean,
is
people commonly act like characters from TV shows without really thinking about it because like they like the character, so they're like, oh, I'll do that. And I mean, I feel like it's the same concept but applied differently.
Is it the interest in being over the top that draws that out of people? I mean, that's my point.
I mean, I think it's because they want to show that they like anime, and the way that they do that is by acting like they are a part of the genre.
So it's not a point of showing that they are different, like different from a norm.
I mean, because if you think about it, being a fan of anime and acting over the top is a norm in itself, so I don't think that's the case.
Well, a norm like to what? A social norm to who? To here? Because it's not here.
Well, you stereotype the whole genre as people who are like that.
Well, I'm talking about the bits and pieces of those people, the people that make that stereotype even a thing that can exist. Because those people, we've literally seen those people. Like, we've seen the types of people that
I mean, but that's like the same thing about like Star Trek fans being stuck up. Like, people assume that, but it's not true.
Yes, but I can willingly admit that there is a level of it, and I can explain why that level exists in context of the TV show. If you want to talk about why people can be stuck up and why people can take things not literally but can take things to such a minute detail when examining, is because the whole show, a lot of the B plot is a minute examination of things, and the whole show is a minute examination of human philosophy and life. So when you watch that over such a stretch, you start to emulate that in your life, and I think that's, I mean, I guess it is a character trait similar to this, but I don't think that is as loud and pronounced as what some people may come off as when they come off as
it's because the trait's different. Like, being a Star Trek fan, and being in that mindset is like you wouldn't just go out and scream it to the rooftops that you're better than everybody else, because you would never say that. But like, when you're an anime fan, like, the stereotype is that like you would be loud and boisterous, so like of course it's going to get more attention and people are going to think it's odd.
And I
don't even believe in that stereotype to begin with. Like, I mean, there's always a few like odd apples in the bunch, but like I feel like most anime fans are more like me, maybe a little bit more vocal about it, but like I feel like a lot of them are just watching it as a medium because they, just like it.
Well, I definitely think that there is some level of that to it. Just as there is a level with all of it. Like, if there can be people that can watch a show and act a certain way because of that show, then people can naturally assume a stereotype for the whole thing, even if it's not the whole thing. But that still leaves the underliers that does exist of that nature. And that's true for anything. So, I had something else that you said that was interesting, but I can't recall. But yeah, I mean, I think the fan base, that doesn't then answer my question that I was asking earlier about if anime is the thing that then people draw off of to act a certain way later on, with their character base. And then when other people see it, and by the way, it does act as a deterrent when somebody, not this exactly, but when anybody absorbs the stuff from anime, characteristics, what have you, and then they project it out, to other people, and then people can kind of pick up that it's an anime vibe, or they know that person watches anime, and it instills negativity towards that thing, towards wanting to experience that thing, especially like that it's a different vibe to anything else that's in their life, because anime is such an outlier. But anime is not such an outlier in mainstream media that people accept it like it's comedy, that they're comedians all about, it's not so like it's not such a numb thing to experience. Someone who's so into anime but expresses themselves so greatly, that is the thing that's different,
Yes.
So I think that's a pretty good cross examination. I don't know if there was anything else I had points about it. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. To me, like I feel like because obviously there's a lot of anime, so to me, people who just hate the genre in general or think everyone in the genre is the same, like, I don't know, it's short-sighted, and honestly it's pretty offensive. Like I am a firm believer that there is an anime for everybody. Like, if you looked hard enough and you looked for a long time, you could find one that you enjoy. And even if it's just that one, I guarantee there's at least one out there.
I mean, you could say that about literally anything.
Exactly. But, like, the difference is that people aren't going to look for it. So, therefore, they're just going to assume that it's all the same.
Yeah. I mean, there's also, too, that level of whatever they're getting into, like surface level. Because you have to admit, your case is different than like an adult's case for getting into anime. Where, like, it was a kid's show. It wasn't like you weren't even processing it as anime, the concept, until you were older and realized what that was even defined as. And by that point, you were already cultivated to the way things were in that subgenre. Well, genre. It's not really a subgenre, but that is kind of the difference for an adult looking in now, because you have the surface level of how things look on the outside, and then you have to then find something that can gravitate you towards, and then from there you build up. But that's still, as an adult who has a life and has a job and has lots of things going on, it is a harder, weirder thing to try and get into.
I mean, the reverse is also kind of true, because it's a lot harder for me to get into, like, a regular live-action show than it is for me to get into an anime. So I feel like it's just kind of like what you grew up with and what you like. I mean, I guess one could say that I just never grew out of cartoons, and that's why I watch anime, because it's what I prefer. But, like, you always watch Star Trek, so, like...
But I've also watched a lot of the stuff that you've watched.
Yeah. But, like, I mean, you also watch other things.
Well, like, I think the difference between you and I is that a lot of my interests are narrative based and how the tech works for it, and that led me to other things. Plus, I was watching way more stuff than you to begin with.
Yeah.
But on the levels that we were watching, that drew the paths different, was that I think you became interested in the art and the way that people could express themselves visually, emotionally through that style. Again, I'm not entirely sure the proper way to describe the medium. But for me, then it became, not only how is this made, but also the actors that are doing this and how they portray a character, how writers are coming up with these ideas and writing stuff that move people, and that leads in two different directions. Because I think that anime is much more show don't tell versus a lot of other genres, which are very much tell and show at the same time. And I mean, that could be another reason why I don't watch it as much, because it's very much just look at this and then go, versus other stuff where you look at it and then they take it away from you and you have to think about it for like a little bit and like a while, and you at least ponder. If it's live action, you ponder like, oh, that was really good for this narrative reason, but also look at the cinematography that someone had to craft.
I mean,
to do this sort of thing.
I think anime also has that level of cinematography. Because like
animation, but
you can do a lot of things, but
that's what makes you think about. Well, I don't know if you can. I don't know if that's the same descriptor that you can use, cinematography. It's I think it. I don't know if it's called that, but cinematography for live action, you very much, it's very much a thing that people find interesting, because like with anime, you can literally describe it any way you want as long as you can draw it that way. But with cinematography, it's always a human behind the camera, even if it's a drone or whatever, and all the decisions are human based. So if you're looking at something really cool and really unique to shoot or transition, if it's an editing thing, that's another human that had to make all those moves, and it's up to human error, especially with like how you're shooting a scene. That's why like the stuff like Game of Thrones, a Starbucks cup can still be in the shot, and now it's like an infamous thing. It's like they have such a high budget profile, but they're still human, and they still left a human error.
I mean, I guess you could. I mean, there's stuff like that in anime too, like a lot of miscolorations and like maybe like screwed up lines or whatever. I mean, it's not exempt from human error.
I don't think they talk about it as much in anime though.
I mean, it's also a lot more niche, so you probably didn't hear about it. I mean, I can think of at least a few aspects.
But do they have? Does anime have the same culture, where like people will want to sit down and talk about it like a Comic-Con situation, where like creators and people who were in it and all this stuff, like it's an open dialogue about what you've seen, especially because there's so much of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was gonna say. I guess there's just really not time to look at stuff like that because like anime is very seasonal. So like you watch 12 episodes one season and then you're on to the next. Like, there's really not a lot of like sit down and like look at the errors, and especially because they usually fix the errors when they go like to re-release it for Blu-ray or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's the thing too. Is a lot of other types, a lot of live action, especially TV nowadays. Like it's very much that what you're and the producers know that there is going to be a talk later on, especially if it's something that goes to Comic-Con. You know that the fan base is going to want to chat about what they've seen, and they want to have an open dialogue with creators.
I mean, that's also true with a lot of the bigger anime, like Demon Slayer. Like, yeah, there was a lot of talk about that. Like, I think it was like episode 19 was like one of the best animated things that's ever existed ever. So people were talking about that for like months.
I just don't see, and I also think like anime, to an extent, especially with how they do things, takes itself a lot, maybe not too seriously, but it takes itself very seriously. I think when it talks about itself and when it tells its own stories, and I just don't see I don't see the same fun that animes can have, like Rick and Morty, where Rick and Morty can just trash itself and literally tell the audience that this is a stupid show and you're an idiot for watching it. Like that kind of stuff, I feel like that kind of conversation can't happen as much.
I mean, yeah, but I think that might also be like, I guess I don't have an answer for that one. I think that's more just like writing style, you know?
Well, it's also the people that made it. Like I think
Yeah.
I just think like the medium of anime sometimes can come across as such a serious fashion because whatever not machinery, whatever medium that it's in that makes it, like all of the people that work in that same industry, there we go, industry. All the people that work in that same industry, I think at the end of the day, they come across to people and to themselves as more serious than how other people would do it in other industries.
I mean, I guess that's true, but anime is also a really costly industry, so like I guess in a sense they take it a lot more seriously because like it's like their life, like not their, I don't know how to say it, but like it's like their art. Like it's not just like a thing that they do for a living, like it's a thing they do out of passion, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I guess then.
I mean, because you've heard like animators get like pretty underpaid. Like if you animate something, you are like super committed to it.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. There's a lot of similarities in that aspect with other shows too. But then the question is, how do they define themselves on TV? Because like we're defining anime with our concept of television, but there could be a different concept of television that they work with.
I mean,
but even if like I feel like that's kind of stupid if somebody came up to me that worked in an industry localized to Japan and they were describing to me like how they perceive television. Like I don't know if I could take that as seriously as they'd want me to, because I'm like, well, at the end of the day, you still have time slots like we do. You still have to market to people like we do to get them to watch your shows like we do. Like there's so many similarities that if they told me that conceptually it was different, I'd be like, I can't really trust that as much. Like at the end of the day, it's still a game and we're all in this game to try and put more content out there. It's all the same. Everybody's in the same fight to do this sort of thing. But it's just, I think it comes down to the way its industry works and the way that the fan base is culminated and similarities between that fan base that make it strong. I think a lot of anime fan base culture would very much not abandon itself like a lot of other genres. Like I think a lot of genres, the people that are in it move on, or they stick with it until like a bombshell drops and they're quick to scatter, like they'll go to something else. I think anime, for whatever reason, just hangs in there for a while. Like they just cling, and I don't know why that is, but it is. You know.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Anyway, we had a lot more to talk about, but I mean, it's an interesting conversation. I don't know how many questions we answered.
I mean, I wasn't prepared like at all, so I probably didn't answer any of them. But
it's just definitely an interesting tidbit to talk about in terms of the scope of the conception and contraception of anime as a whole.
Word?
Yeah,
It's a big brain word.
Look it up. Everybody, we'll see you in the next one. Watch some weeaboo stuff, and then watch. That's another thing we should have talked about is like that culture.
Yeah, that I would have answers for.
But we won't talk about this again because we have other stuff to talk about, unless this gets like 100,000 million views.
That would be funny. Just put anime in the tag; it'll get everybody.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll see you guys later next time. Hopefully, we can get those 13 subscribers back.
How many do we have? Like 9?
We have 9 now. We used to have 13.
I'd be content with 10. Just one more.
Just one more. We used to be at 10. We can get there again, and we'll get there with you guys. So I just want to say thanks. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button.
Not in that order.
And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.